To discuss is co-founder and executive director of the American Accountability Foundation, Tom Jones. Tom, great to see you. So these findings are really concerning in so many ways, and one of the biggest is being our national security and the risk this poses. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think unquestionably the biggest risk here is from infiltration by elite Chinese nationals. The Chinese government has put together a program where they ensure that their highest quality scientists in defense adjacent areas are coming to U.S. universities to soak up the science and technology expertise that they need to equip the People's Liberation Army to be the dominant military in the 21st century. And they're doing this everywhere. They're doing it at Harvard. They're doing it at Indiana University. They're doing it at the University of Texas. And they're putting these researchers into these programs so that, one, they can get this knowledge, but two, so that they can develop relationships with men and women who are Americans, who are the leaders in these defense-adjacent communities of research, so that they have really espionage capabilities that are incredibly problematic. And there's over 10,000 of these elite researchers at U.S. universities now conducting a lot of problematic research.
Yeah, you mentioned Harvard. Apparently, it's also happening at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, also at MIT. So let's talk a little bit more about that and really just how scary that is and how it influences also the topics, the subjects that are taught in classrooms.
Yeah, it's really problematic. The Carnegie Mellon example you gave is a great example. What we found was there's a researcher at Carnegie Mellon, and let's be clear, Carnegie Mellon houses a Department of Defense research lab. There was a researcher there from the People's Republic of China who had strong relationships with the Chinese Communist Party. He was a leader of the CCP chapter on his campus in China, and this guy was conducting drone software research at Carnegie Mellon, adjacent to folks that are working with the Air Force, that are working with DOD. Look, if we learned anything in the conflicts in the last couple of years, whether it be in the Ukraine or in other places, it's that drone research and drone capabilities are really the next generation. So what happens is you get these folks into our universities, stealing our technology and then taking it home, and really kind of creating a technology transfer that's incredibly dangerous. Unfortunately, our universities, they're more than happy to hire these people because they're a lot cheaper than Americans, and they come over and then they hire more of their friends from China, and it's cheaper for the university. And then on the student side, these universities say, cool, we can bring in 600,000 people from China, educate them, charge them full freight, and make a ton of bucks off of it. So it's really pretty destructive, and it's really a huge national security threat that we're ignoring, and really it's a huge vulnerability that our universities just don't seem to care about, and all they really seem to be caring about is the money that this brings in.
Yeah, I know back in April of last year, the president signed an executive order called Transparency Regarding Foreign Influence at American Universities, and it called for an end to secrecy around foreign funding. So, you know, Tom, how can the Trump administration, how can they combat this foreign influence even further than just using an EO? What can be done here?
Yeah, they can deport people. This is not like this problem isn't complicated. You know, we should not have individuals from China at American universities conducting research in sensitive defense areas. Send them home. This isn't hard. The transparency is not the solution. Deportation is the solution here. So what they need to do is to say, look, if you're affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party and you're here from China and you're doing, I don't know, work on nuclear engineering, you don't get to do that in the United States anymore because that's too sensitive and that's too potentially harmful to the national security. So we're going to drive you to the airport and we're going to put you on a plane, we're going to send you home, and we're going to put a U.S. citizen or maybe, hey, a foreign national from a country that we're allies with into those positions. Again, transparency is great, but at the end of the day, getting these folks out of sensitive positions, that's the solution. Like, I don't want transparency that tells me, hey, I'd like to show you very transparently the massive national security threat we have. No, I want solutions that say I have mitigated and eliminated the national security threat that exists in U.S. universities.
Yeah, and it just seems to continue. I know out at Stanford, some student journalists, they received I think it was like more than $700 million in foreign funding, and have called attention to what they describe as a growing influence by the CCP, stating that they're orchestrating this widespread intelligence gathering campaign on their campus. I've heard about this before, but how is it allowed to go on? I mean, why doesn't this raise a red flag?
Yeah, a red flag is exactly right. Look, the Chinese are playing for keeps. They're putting money and they're putting bodies next to this problem. Their problem is they don't have the best scientists in the world, and by and large, they don't have the best research institutions in the world. The United States does. So what are they doing? They're sending people and money to American research institutions. And what happens is really they exfiltrate this technology. They're incredibly aggressive about it. We've seen it in places around the country where Chinese nationals on U.S. campuses will be harassing Chinese dissidents, harassing Taiwanese nationals, and threatening their families back home. So the Chinese are really serious about this problem. We have to stop caring about the cash cow that comes from foreign national students, and we need to start caring about the national security infrastructure of the United States and our future security. So look, our universities just have to get serious about this. We have to tell them, look, you can't do this. You can't bring these people in. You can't take their money. You can't let them influence, because look, when you take people's money, you become susceptible to their influence, and that's exactly what's happening. Mostly with the Chinese. I think that's the most severe threat, but the Qataris have done it as well down at Texas A&M and NYU. So they understand how this works, and we just can't play into it. We can't say, hey, sure, back up a dump truck full of Chinese money to our university, and we'll do whatever you want. That's national security suicide.
Yeah, and it also seems to me it's influencing the way our young people think, right? Like this money's coming in from China, all these other places. Do you think it's leading to this radicalization that we've seen on college campuses?
Yeah, I think it works both ways. Look, I mean, universities are kind of a cesspool of liberalism to begin with, regardless of whether the Chinese are coming in and bringing, a big spoonful of Marxism. So, they get it. They know it's an open door to push on to kind of bring the Marxist ideology. But look, at the end of the day, I think the Chinese are less concerned about whether the University of Pennsylvania has a robust DEI curriculum. I think they're more concerned about whether they can get aeronautical engineering technology out of an Indiana university or out of a Texas A&M than they are about whether they can persuade blue-haired 19-year-olds to go raise their fist at a protest for the Students for Justice for Palestine. I think they want to kill us. I think they want to have an army that is incredibly strong and more powerful than the United States military, and the way to do that is to steal our technology and our science.
Well, Tom, I got to leave it right there. Thank you so much, though, for shining a light on this. It's really important. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on.